SNP and Labour councillors have welcomed over 4,000 asylum seekers to our city, which puts additional pressures on our homelessness services. Isn't it a cheek for SNP politicians to now complain about the threat to social cohesion, given this is their policies at work?
Thank you, Grant. Glasgow has asked the Home Office to pause new arrivals of asylum seekers while they work through the backlog that they have at the moment. Katrina Stewart, you live in Govan Hill, one of the areas that asylum seekers have been housed in. Is there a threat to social cohesion, do you think, at the moment?
I think we need to be really, really careful when we're discussing this not to scapegoat asylum seekers and refugees. I think Scotland has been very good at welcoming new communities in through the doors, particularly in Glasgow. You mentioned that it's an SNP policy, it's a Westminster policy. The Home Office designated Glasgow as a dispersal city, and so we ended up having to accommodate people moving here. And actually it's a positive thing when people's status is changed from a refugee to asylum seeker, because it means then they can work and they can become involved in the fabric of the community that they're in, and they can contribute to the tax base, which is all really positive. The problem here is structural issues. There isn't enough housing, and that is because of political inaction over many, many years, and that shouldn't be placed at the feet of new Scots, of asylum seekers and refugees. And that is exactly what Reform UK is trying to do. They are trying to come up with very simplistic, populist solutions to this kind of problem.
This was the SNP convener of the Homelessness Committee who said this. He said we have to pause this because we can't cope at the moment.
Yes, exactly, but not because of the sort of scapegoating that's being done by Reform and by the right, because simply there isn't enough housing for everyone. And there are around 4,000 people in temporary accommodation. Not all of those are refugees and asylum seekers. I think around 1,500 are people who are just going through homelessness accommodation. But there does need to be solutions to the housing crisis. And another issue of this is that the Home Office have given tens of millions of pounds to large organisations, to contractors, to try and provide housing. That housing is substandard, it doesn't work, it's not done efficiently, and this is vast sums of public money being wasted.
Thank you. Lady in the second row here, on you go.
How is it justifiable for you to say that there's a shortage of housing available when anyone that walks through any of Scotland's towns, cities, all they see is an array of vacant buildings which could be getting used for better purposes? And I was reading in a survey the other day that your average council house takes £5,000 to £10,000 to get ready for occupation. Well, you were willing to spend more than that on some boys' football phone expenses. So I don't see why you can't find the money to do that. Okay. Or you also have the other option of there's the economic home design that Mr Trump's partner has came up with. It's £60,000 to build a green-friendly home. But the government seems to be smearing it because, well, it's Donald Trump's buddy, so why can we use that?
Okay, all right. Stuart Murdoch, do you think?
Well, I just want to directly answer your point. I just happened to be talking to a woman from Shelter today, just stopped me in the street, and we had a really good chat. And in the course of the conversation, she said there's 50,000 vacant properties in Scotland, across Scotland, and 40,000, she said 40,000 or so folk homeless looking for homes are in between. And we were standing there on Great Western Road, just put the two things together. You know.
What I read from the stats, now this is reading, it may be out of date, I apologise if anything I've got wrong is here, but from what I was reading, it would take 0.3 to 0.6 of Scotland's budget to have that fixed within a year.
Okay, okay. But we are where we are in terms of the numbers and the pause that the SNP have asked in Glasgow in terms of asylum numbers. Are you worried about a threat to social cohesion in the short term?
No. Me personally not. I like...
That's not what you see.
No, I just love the way that Glasgow's going. Glasgow's a green paradise. People should come and enjoy it. You know, I know it's not... I know it's not a paradise for everybody because folk struggle, but we are so lucky. I travel the world and I come back to Glasgow. It's an amazing place to live. And I don't see why there can't be a wee bit more room. There is room in Glasgow and I like the way it's going.
Man on the second row here.
Yeah, I understand all the empathy towards these individuals coming, but there's a lot of Indigenous people who don't have houses, who are living in sofa surfing, etc. And what I found really quite difficult to take was that, I'm not sure if it's Serco or one of the other third-party providers, has written to landlords and has said that if there are properties available, they will guarantee the rent for 3 years, they will pay all the repairs and maintenance for the property, and they will also give them anything else that's required during that period of time. So it's a golden handshake for landlords who've got available properties. They wouldn't be doing that for the Indigenous people who don't have houses in Glasgow, I suspect.
Fulton McGregor?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is I think we should be very proud as a country in Scotland that we do welcome asylum seekers. People who are asylum seekers are coming from some of the most horrendous and difficult situations.
No one's questioning that, Fulton, though. It's about the resource to deal with this. The cost doubling in the next 10 years in Glasgow. I'm coming to that, Stephen, but I do want to make the point that I don't want the conversation to move away from that part, that I think we can, whatever your political views are and whatever your political views are on asylum, I think that we can be proud as a nation that Scotland is a welcome country and that we do welcome people who are experiencing difficulties. Do you accept some people, though, like that man, are anxious about where this is leading? Yeah,
well, I was going to come to that. Like Stuart, I don't believe that there's any current risk to social cohesion. I don't accept that argument, but I do accept that if you take asylum seekers, it's common sense to say that that is obviously putting pressure onto services, and we need to deal with that. We need to find ways to deal with that. We need to have the investment from the UK government around these policies, but also from the Scottish government as well, in order to make sure that there is enough services for everybody. That's asylum seekers, and it's for people who are already living here in Scotland and in Glasgow. And we do need to make sure, and I think Stuart actually put it well, there needs to be room for everybody, and we need to make that happen. And that is all our job here in the panel tonight, well, at least the three politicians, but also people that are in your council chambers here in Glasgow and elsewhere across the country. We do need to make that happen.
Thank you. Man in the white top and the glasses. Yeah.
I would like to ask sort of the MSPs, well, UK government as well. I mean, we've got all this money, apparently, for refugees and for everybody else. But what about Scotland's problems? What about the homelessness, the bad streets, the bad pavements? I've just fell over. I've just broken, well, not broken, but I've just fell over because of dodgy roads that haven't been fixed in nearly 45 years. I'm 53, and these are not feeding the people properly, our own people. And all we concentrate on is everything else except for ourselves. And I think Scotland should come first. Okay. Especially when it comes to our money.
Paul O'Kane, Scotland should come first.
Well, look, I think on the broader issues, there's a number of...
No, answer that man's point, please.
I was just about to say there are a number of clear priorities here, and I think in terms of the point about the First Minister's summit that he held on social cohesion, the way I think to improve things is to deal with those issues in terms of public services that this gentleman's talking about, and that is about roads and pavements, and it's about our local schools, and it's about the bins, and it's about all of those issues, and they've been chronically underinvested in for 18 years for everyone from this SNP government, because councils just haven't had the money they need to be able to deliver those services. And then to go into the broader issue, I think, about asylum and immigration, for 14 years under the Conservatives, we've had a broken system that I don't think has been working effectively, either to help support and protect those who need to come to this country because they are fleeing really horrendous situations, but also when there are people who are in this country without a right to be here, they have to be removed and sent back, and there needs to be a system to do that. And the system
Glasgow City Council asked to meet Home Office Minister Angela Eagle to talk about all of this. She didn't show up for the meeting.
Well, look, I think it's important that the UK government engage with all authorities across Scotland who are dealing with this.
Well, she didn't do that.
Well, look, I'm saying to you, I think it's important that she does. And I think it's important that the UK government have a lot of competing challenges in this space. For example, having to ditch the Rwanda scheme that wasn't working under the previous UK Conservative government and actually put into place systems that actually can speed up approvals or sending people back.
Thank you. Man in the red here. Yes, on you go.
Whilst I agree that a sudden demographic change can be concerning for people, so for example, if you have 4,000 different people staying in government, that would be a concern. But what I don't understand is that being the 6th richest nation on earth, where you have another 186 nation behind you, and we still say that we are poor enough, we can't house others. And when we hear this othering, mainly because of the reform who is in power, and at the end of the day, politicians won votes, they would like to say that othering, that our homeless people is not getting the house they need because these asylum seekers are coming. And that's something absolutely atrocious and scandalous. We can't say that, we shouldn't say that. I have been an immigrant myself, and I think Scotland has warmly embraced me. I would like others to be embraced too.
Thank you. Lady in the back row. Right at the back, yeah.
I just think the kind of common factor in the whole debates that we're talking about tonight, it was especially after this gentleman saying that he'd fallen over a broken pavement. I think, you know, did we not privatise a lot of our works, a lot of our roadworks and everything that's ground to a halt? You know, Glasgow's backed up. I drive to uni every day and it's backed up. I can't move because it's private companies. You know, it's always been profits first and people last. It's not, you know, people who are coming here from other countries. You know, we're closer to these people than half of the people making our decisions. Like, it's just an easy scapegoat for the continuing issues we have in the UK.
Thank you. Easy scapegoat, says that lady. Is she right?
Well, can I address Grant's point at the very start of the question? The SNP have been wanting to get more and more people here. It's not the fault of the people who are here. My parents were immigrants, and they came into this country in a legal manner, and I have been very fortunate to be born in this country and raised here. The problem we have, and it's just down the road in Drumchapel Health Centre cannot cope. It is unable to see the patients it's got. If you come here and you're an asylum seeker, you probably don't speak English, which means that it takes double or triple the amount of time for you to get seen. That's not the fault of the individual. It's the fault of the SNP government, who have chronically underfunded the Scottish Health Service. We have a Glasgow City Council who are not cleaning our streets, who are not cleaning up graffiti, who are not filling our potholes. They are now in a position
But immigration is a reserved matter. It's the Home Office that is sending people to Scotland. It's not the SNP government.
The SNP's policy has always been to bring as many people here as possible. That's what they talk about all the time.
They don't have control over immigration.
It's what they talk about all the time. Glasgow wanted people to come here. As I keep saying, it's not the fault of the individual. It's the fault of the government for underfunding everything that we have going on, which means that people who are citizens of this country are unable to see their GP. People who are citizens of this country are unable to get housing in the way that they should do. Our services are chronically underfunded by this SNP government, and that is what's causing our massive issue here.
Okay. You can feel the concern in the room around this. So in 6 weeks' time, we're doing a special programme here in Glasgow, looking at some of the challenges facing the city at the moment. Critics have suggested Glasgow is in a state of decline at the moment. Is that how you feel about it? Come along and have your say. Go to the website bbc.co.uk/debate night and join us for that special programme in 6 weeks' time from Glasgow about the state of the city and the challenges it faces right now.